So, scientists have made an unbelievable discovery at the bottom of the ocean. If you guys are new to the channel, become part of the family by hitting that subscribe button down below. And yeah, let's get into the video.
Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Sunken City. Researchers discovered a strange group of pyramid-like
Is that Atlantis? The lost city?
structures off the coast of Cuba. These structures were found at the bottom of the ocean, identified using sonar equipment. They appear to be megaliths, things that would normally be found at a site on land like Stonehenge or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. These structures are roughly 1,200 feet long and 120 feet high.
At one point, they were probably above the ocean, and maybe over time, that part of the islands just kept sinking. That's what probably happened there.
They've been estimated at 6,000 years old. They don't look like anything ever found in Cuba and are more reminiscent of the pyramids and temples in Belize or Mexico. This discovery should have been international news when it was made just a couple of years ago, but ever since it was first mentioned, it hasn't come up again. There is much debate as to whether this find was even real, even though the structures look very clear. No teams have gone underwater to check out the mysterious sunken city, and no mainstream archaeologists will even talk about it. This has led some to speculate that the ancient city could change history, and that for some reason, the discovery is being suppressed. On the other hand, it could be nothing more than natural geological formations. They certainly look like pyramids, temples, and other buildings, but there is a chance they are just rocks, and their shapes are coincidental. What do you think?
They're trying to keep it hush-hush, I think.
Number 9. The USS Jacob Jones. In 2022, divers uncovered the USS Jacob Jones, a U.S. Navy destroyer which was annihilated by an enemy submarine over 100 years ago in 1917. It's famous for being the first American destroyer ever lost in combat. It was divers from the British Sub-Aqua Club who uncovered its remains while searching for mysterious wrecks along the coastline of the UK. The USS Jacob Jones had originally been hit by a German torpedo during World War I. It was an early prototype for the destroyer class, which is currently the backbone of the U.S. Navy. The wreckage was found 40 miles from the southwest tip of the UK, submerged 377 feet underwater.
That's hella deep.
But before it was destroyed, the ship was a force to be reckoned with. It had 4 4-inch guns, 8 533mm torpedo tubes, and a pair of steam turbines delivering 17,000 shaft horsepower. After America entered into World War I, the USS Jacob Jones was given convoy duty. Its main task was to deliver troops and supplies from North America to Europe to fight against the Germans. During her brief career, she rescued hundreds of Allied merchantmen who had been left stranded by enemy activity. But then, on the night of December 6, 1917,
got hit by that torpedo
she
and
was
went
hit
down.
by a torpedo. 64 crew members died, and the ship was lost until just recently. Number 8. Mysterious holes. Explorers have discovered some extremely unusual holes on the ocean floor. They have been called alien holes, and no one has any idea who made them or what purpose they serve. The holes are perfectly aligned, looking like they were purposely punched into the sea floor 1.6 miles beneath the surface. They were uncovered by a crew with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration as they explored a vast section of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This is part of the largest mountain range in the world, and a place that hasn't been investigated too much in the past.
What?
But let's
Ocean
get back to
spiders?
the holes. They are extremely bizarre, and some say they were clearly made by some intelligent life form. The holes are perfectly straight, and as you may know, Mother Nature doesn't typically work in straight lines. She also doesn't work with repeating distances, but each hole is the exact same distance from the last. They appear to have been measured and placed with great care, and each one is surrounded by a small mound of sediment. But this is where things get even weirder. The same phenomenon was spotted in 2004 by the U.S. National Marine Fishery Service. They found a very similar pattern of holes and couldn't figure out what had made them. It doesn't look like it was an organism because scientists have never seen a creature make something like this before.
So straight, right?
Researchers and scientists across the world are stumped. Some have theorized the holes could have been made by cracks in the sea floor. Some say it's
But how could it be so
gas,
perfect?
and some have even suggested it was an underwater vehicle searching for treasure. And then, of course, there are the stranger theories. Some say the holes are evidence of alien activity, leftover marks from whatever the aliens were doing in secret at the bottom of the ocean.
Possible.
Number 7.
I think that's more likely.
Dino track. Texas is historically hot and dry. Amid the great drought happening right now, the Paluxy River in the Dinosaur Valley State Park has lost most of its water. The river dried up completely in some locations. But according to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the vanishing water revealed prehistoric dinosaur tracks from 113 million years ago. Under normal conditions, the tracks would have been totally submerged and filled with mucky sediment. Nobody ever would have found them. But now that the river is dry and the sediment has blown away in the wind, the tracks have been revealed as if they were left only yesterday. Paleontologists say the dinosaur footprints were left behind by an Acrocanthosaurus. This was a beastly carnivore that stood 15 feet tall and weighed roughly 7 tons. It was one of the most
Thank God
terrifying
these guys are not
dinosaurs
running
to
around
ever
today.
roam prehistoric Texas, feasting on anything that moved. Number 6. The world's deepest shipwreck. The deepest shipwreck in the world has just been found in an impossible depth in the Philippines. The ship is a U.S. destroyer that sank in World War II. It was found at a dizzying depth of 4 miles below the surface, or approximately 22,916 feet. That's a little over half as deep as the Mariana Trench. To give you an idea of just how insanely deep the ship was, only about 2% of the oceans are deeper than 23,000 feet. The ship is called the USS Samuel B. Roberts, or Sammy B for short. The Navy confirmed its discovery in a statement in June of 2022, although it was a company from the UK that made the discovery. Former Naval Commander Victor Vescovo and the team with EOS Expeditions found the ship broken in half at the bottom of the ocean. Sammy B was commissioned in 1944 and sunk the same year by Japanese naval forces during the brutal Battle of Samar. The American naval force was heavily outnumbered by the Japanese, and yet they successfully defended against a major attack. The Sammy B even damaged the superior
they had the Filipino
Japanese
people
fleet,
with them, that's why.
which consisted of 4 huge battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 11 destroyers, and the most heavily armed battleship ever constructed, the Yamato. But although the Sammy B fought bravely, it took a hard hit from the Yamato and went down, taking 89 brave soldiers with it. The 120 soldiers who survived were forced to cling to scraps of the wreckage for nearly 50 hours before they were rescued. Number 5. Huge hydrothermal vents. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, scientists have discovered a series of hydrothermal vents. These vents are positively huge, covering an area about the size of a football field. They look like craggy underwater chimneys, rocky towers about 40 feet tall each. To make them even more chimney-like, the hydrothermal vents spew out black, smoky water that can reach temperatures of up to 694 degrees Fahrenheit. That water is so hot it would burn the flesh right off your bones. You wouldn't even be able to get near this thing because it would be like standing in the mouth of a volcano when it erupted. Scientists believe the water is even hotter inside the vent, possibly 818 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's melted.
Before it shoots out of the formation. But it's not the hydrothermal vents themselves that are so scary. Researchers from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in Massachusetts say the extremely hot temperature of the water suggests something terrifying. A volcanic eruption could be on the horizon, probably in the next few years. The newly discovered field of hydrothermal vents is about 200 miles from the coast of Mexico in the Pacific Ocean. The field is also part of the East Pacific Rise, a group of potentially world-destroying volcanoes extending from California to Antarctica. The vents are so hot, it suggests that something deep beneath the ground is happening, perhaps an accumulation of energy that will lead to a biblical-sized volcanic eruption.
Oh, that's not what we want.
It could, theoretically, bring about the end of humanity.
End of the world?
Number 4. The head of Hercules. Archaeologists have just discovered the head of Hercules. It wasn't a real human skull, but a stone head that belonged to a statue of one of history's most famous mythical heroes. It was discovered in a Roman shipwreck that sank near the Greek island Antikythera, located in the southern Aegean Sea. It went down in the first part of the 1st century BC. But this was hardly the first discovery made at the site. This shipwreck was initially found 100 years ago. Researchers have already brought an unbelievable wealth of treasure to the surface, but it was only recently that researchers began finding even more artifacts. They realized that an earthquake had occurred sometime after the ship sank, causing huge boulders to tumble onto the wreckage. Only once a team started removing the boulders did they find even more treasure. They had to use underwater lifting equipment, pressurized airbags, and all the ingenuity they had to move the boulders. Some of them weighed nearly 10 tons. But with
10
the
tons
huge
underwater?
rocks removed, they found more artifacts, the most stunning being Hercules' preserved marble head. Number 3. The gummy squirrel. A strange creature was recently found down in the depths of a deep-sea abyss. Researchers are calling it a gummy squirrel, and they say it looks like...
Bro, there's always these weird creatures still being discovered underneath the waters, man. Like, always, there's so many of these. Like, what is that? The gummy squirrel. That's why you never know what's underneath the water. So many things could be hiding down there underneath the water, honestly. There could be aliens and stuff hiding underneath the water, and we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know, man, because there's such... The thing about it, the ocean floor is so deep, and there's so much pressure down there that we can't go down there because we get crushed. But I wonder, some of these things, like, how is this surviving on the ocean floor, and yet we can't go down that far? Like, tell me that. How is that?
Like a moldy, half-peeled banana. Scientists with the Natural History Museum in London found a menagerie of bizarre marine life in the Pacific Ocean. Among their discoveries were dozens of creatures that might be species totally unknown to science. In the summer of 2018, a remotely operated vehicle was sent to search
robots
through
down
an abyss 16,400 feet beneath the surface. The abyss is located somewhere between Hawaii and Mexico and contains all manner of odd monsters. The team managed to recover 55 specimens, with 39 of them appearing to be...
It's starting to seem like a lot of things are all around, like, the Americas, man. Like, all the best things are around the Americas. That's what it seems like so far.
Totally new species. According to biologist Guadalupe Bribiesca Contreras, the last group to explore the area was 150 years ago on the HMS Challenger. Since then, this part of the ocean has barely been touched. It's no surprise they found so many wacky new animals. The so-called gummy squirrel appears to be a type of sea cucumber shaped like a banana. It was nearly 2 feet long, about the size of a child's arm. They also found a new kind of sea sponge that looks exactly like an underwater tulip. Unfortunately, the team didn't find any gigantic monsters, no new species of shark or terrifying fish with fangs. But this is a dark and mysterious part of the ocean, a place so deep there is no light and very little nutrition. It's possible that with additional expeditions, researchers will find even more bizarre creatures. Number 2.
Because who knows what's down there, right?
Stonehenge. In summer of 2022, a severe drought revealed something unbelievable in Spain. In 1963, the prehistoric site of what archaeologists nicknamed the Spanish Stonehenge was flooded. The government needed to create a new reservoir as part of a civil engineering project. And so, one of the most impressive archaeological marvels in all of Spain was flooded and gone. It remained submerged until now. The site was originally found in 1926 by the German archaeologist Hugo Obermeier. He was able to help identify the prehistoric circle as being 7,000 years old. It's an ancient megalith even older than Stonehenge, consisting of 100 standing stones. Nobody knows if the monument was used for ritualistic activity, if it was an extravagant tomb for a prehistoric chief, or if it was built to commemorate some great event. What we do know is that Europe is in its worst drought in 500 years, and the reservoir is nearly empty. With the water gone, the monument has been revealed once again. Sadly, the prehistoric site has taken a beating by being underwater for so long. Most of these stones have fallen over and shattered, and once the water in the reservoir rises again and the stones are submerged once more, it will probably be damaged even further. Number 1. Ancient Greek shipwreck. Researchers with the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology recently announced the discovery of a shipwreck filled to the brim with treasure from the Ptolemaic era over 2,000 years ago. It was found in the Bay of Abu Qir, off the coast of Alexandria in Egypt. It's believed that the ship likely sank after it was hit by giant blocks of stone when the Temple of Amun was destroyed. Frank Gaudio, the president of the IEASM, says the temple was ruined during a major natural disaster in the 2nd century BC. As the temple crumbled to pieces, one of those pieces fell onto the ship, which had been moored in a canal right beside it. The ship then sank, was covered in blocks of rubble, and remained hidden for about 2,200 years. The blocks pinned the wreck to the bottom of the canal, and it was slowly covered over by about 15 feet of sediment. The Greek shipwreck isn't the only thing sitting at the bottom of the Bay of Abu Qir. The bay was once the home of a great port city named Heraklion. Researchers believe this was the very city where Cleopatra had her temple in the days before Egypt was taken over by the Romans. Something happened in the 2nd century, perhaps a tsunami caused by an earthquake. Whatever it was, the entire city of Heraklion tumbled into the water. Ships, temples, and city streets were suddenly submerged.
Wow, that is crazy, man. That is some crazy stuff right there.